How to take flash pictures. Part 2, Shoe Flash. What we'll cover in Part 2, the shoe flash, limitations, setup of the camera and flash, and a flash bracket. Shoe flash, as shown in these pictures. On the left, it is attached to the hot shoe on the camera. And on the right, the flash is attached to a flash bracket, which is then connected to the camera. Each option has its pros and cons. Considerations. If your camera has a built-in pop-up flash, do you shoot flash enough to justify a shoe flash? Well, just one important event could be enough to justify an external shoe flash. If your camera does not have a pop-up flash, well, if you need a flash, then you will need a shoe flash. Shoe flash. Pros and cons. The pro is more power than a pop-up flash, considerably more power. It increases the distance between the flash and the lens, so that you are less likely to get red eye. Con. The setup is much more complicated than a pop-up flash. It is more easily damaged than a pop-up flash because it is sticking way up. It is clumsy to handle, sometimes very clumsy. You could damage the camera if you hit the wall with the camera-mounted shoe flash. You could either tear the shoe off the camera or tear the foot off the flash. Either way, you make serious damage. You have one more thing to deal with. Batteries. You have yet another set of batteries to manage and charge. Limitations. Flashes have limited range. They will not illuminate the whole football field. You have limited depth of lighting. Example later. And you cannot shoot continuous rapid shots. So forget putting your camera on continuous high and expecting to shoot the flash like that. Range and depth of lighting. Closer subjects will get more light than farther subjects. As you can see in this picture, the girl in the front is overexposed. The lady in the background is underexposed. From front to back, a flash will not illuminate everybody evenly. It can only illuminate at a certain distance. In front, it'll be overexposed, and back, it'll be underexposed. A large area flash with a shoe flash. So how did we pull this one off? Remember we said we adjust the ISO? Well, in this case, we adjust the ISO, we raise the ISO level up, and we run the flash at full power. And like other things, test. You may have to make adjustments. Continuous and rapid shooting. A flash generates heat. The problem is the case of the flash is made of plastic. And plastic is a heat insulator, not a heat conductor. Heat is conducted slowly through plastic. What that means is if you shoot rapidly, heat will build up until there is a thermal failure of the flash. Either something burns out or something melts. This is why you do not shoot in continuous mode with a flash. Or even in single mode, you do not shoot rapidly. You have to let the flash cool down. Setup for flash. Presumption. I am presuming that you have an OEM or compatible TTL flash. For example, a Nikon TTL flash on a Nikon camera. I am not covering automatic or manual flashes. Configure the camera and flash. Read the manual for your camera and your flash. The instructions in the manuals may be different than what I am giving you, in which case, follow your manual. Shutter, set for single shot. Autofocus, set for single. Exposure mode, M. Shutter speed, 1/125th of a second. Aperture, based on the flash. ISO, auto ISO equals off. ISO level depends on distance. I usually start at 400, then go up or down as I need to. Configure the shoe flash. Read the manual for your flash and your camera for the specific instructions on how to set it up. There are too many variations for me to cover in this video. Install the shoe flash according to the instructions for your flash. Set the shoe lock so the flash doesn't fall off the camera. Set the ISO on the flash. Match the ISO levels that you set on the camera. If your camera is set to 400, set the ISO on the flash to 400. Set the power level. The farther the distance, the higher the power you need. If you're inside a classroom, you don't need to be running full power. Cut the power down. If you cut the power down, your battery also lasts longer. Shoe flash on a flash bracket. So what do you need to set this thing up? Besides the flash, you need a flash bracket that attaches to the camera, usually screws into the tripod socket. That is the bracket that you see on the right-hand side of the camera. Then you need a sync cord. The sync cord connects the camera to the flash. One end of the sync cord goes into the hot shoe on top of the camera. The other end is attached to the flash bracket, and the flash is inserted into the shoe. Test the camera and flash setup. Make sure you understand how it works and the exposure is correct. Adjust as needed. ISO level, flash power level, and exposure compensation. Just like the camera, the flash exposure is adjusted by the camera. And if the camera reads it wrong, for instance, you're getting a strong reflection off of something, the camera is going to underexpose your subject, so you need to adjust the exposure compensation. And make sure you're adjusting the flash exposure compensation. In some setups, the flash exposure compensation is different than the standard camera exposure compensation. The end. Please go on to part 3, and please like and subscribe.